Hey, real quick, before we dive into today's episode, I want to share that I'm speaking at the Empowered Podcasting Conference in August, and I would love to see you there. Podcasting can feel a little lonely sometimes. You're behind the mic, doing the work, figuring things out mostly on your own. The Empowered Podcasting Conference, or EPC as the cool kids call it, is a small community-first gathering built to help podcasters learn together and actually connect. It's happening this August in Charlotte, North Carolina, and is 3 days of real conversation and actionable insights from people who truly get what you're building. I'll be leading a session on podcast SEO, how to attract the right listeners even when you're offline, and I'd be thrilled to see you in the audience. Get all of the details at thepodcastteacher.com/EPC. That is an affiliate link, which means that I earn a commission when you purchase at no extra cost to you. And actually, you can enter coupon code EPCJulia20 when registering to save 20% on your ticket. That link and code can be found in the description below. I hope to see you at EPC. Now, let's dive into today's episode. Hey, and welcome back. I have some big news to share with you today. This show is getting a new name. Yep, next Tuesday with episode 240, Podcasting for Solopreneurs officially becomes Podcasting Over 50. I'll share the full story behind the change next week, why the new name, what it means for you, and what's staying exactly the same. But I wanted you to hear it from me first, so that when a new cover image pops up in your feed next Tuesday, you'll know that it's still me. And since rebranding has been on my mind a lot lately, I figured what better time to teach you all about it. In case we're meeting for the first time, hi, I'm Julia Levine, aka the Podcast Teacher. You're listening to Podcasting for Solopreneurs, the show that helps online business owners grow their podcast to get more listeners, leads, and sales. Today, we're diving into a topic that can feel both exciting and a little overwhelming, which is, of course, rebranding your podcast. In this episode, I'm going to help you determine whether or not a rebrand is the right move for you, walk you through what needs to change during the rebranding process, and show you how to strategically position your rebrand so that it actually fuels growth. Let's kick things off by talking about 3 common scenarios where I see a rebrand as a solution to consider. Scenario number 1 is that your podcast isn't growing. You've launched your show, you've given it some time, at least 3 to 6 months, and nothing is really happening. Your download numbers are stagnant, or maybe they're even declining month after month. No new listeners are discovering your show organically, and your marketing efforts just aren't moving the needle. Something just isn't clicking, and you are super frustrated. If that sounds like you, a rebrand could be the key to repositioning your show for better visibility and audience alignment. Scenario number 2 is that your podcast has listeners, but isn't bringing in clients. This might mean that your content is attracting an audience, but it's not the right audience because you're getting downloads and then those listeners are not converting into email subscribers, discovery calls, sales, etc. And this can be happening for a few different reasons. Maybe your topic is too broad and listeners don't see how it funnels directly into your offers. Or maybe your messaging isn't aligned with your ideal client's pain points and there's a mismatch there. Or your CTAs, your calls to action, aren't working because listeners don't understand the value of taking the next step. If any of these are the situation, a rebrand can help clarify your messaging and ensure that your podcast is attracting the right people who actually need and want what you have to offer. And scenario number 3 is that you don't feel aligned with the podcast direction anymore. If you feel like your show's branding has gotten stale, isn't quite hitting the mark for your current direction, or isn't exciting you anymore, it may be time to consider a rebrand. I went through something like this myself when I rebranded the first time from podcasting for introverts to podcasting for solopreneurs. If you're an OG, then you remember that change. I had a gut feeling that introverts was not quite the right word for my target audience when I started this podcast, but I teach taking imperfect action. So, practicing what I preach, I moved forward with the name anyway. And I'm so glad that I did because it allowed me to get my podcast started and to find my footing. But less than a year later, I realized I needed a name that better represented my listeners and my business. I felt out of alignment with the name and the direction of the podcast, and so it was time to pivot. And sometimes alignment shifts more than once. Your business evolves, you get to know your people better, and the name that fit 2 years ago doesn't feel quite right anymore. And that's exactly where I have found myself again, which is why this show is becoming Podcasting Over 50 next week. And I'll tell you the whole story in that inaugural episode. So, if any of those scenarios sound familiar to you, it might be time for a rebrand. Now, I want to be clear, a rebrand is not a magic wand that instantly fixes any and all of your podcasting problems. It is a strategic decision, and it deserves some careful thought before you invest the time and energy into it. So, if you're experiencing stalled growth, listeners who aren't turning into clients, or that out of alignment feeling, and you want expert help making the right changes, schedule a consultation with me at thepodcastteacher.com/consult. We'll talk about what's going on with your show and how we can work together to get it where you want it to be, whether that's a rebrand or something else. All right. Rebranding involves more than just updating the aesthetics, so let's talk about what actually needs to change. With a rebrand, you're making a strategic pivot. That usually means shifting your content focus and/or refining your audience. And that means you'll need to update several key elements to reflect the new direction of your show. Let's go through them one by one. First step, of course, is your podcast title. Your show title is the first impression that a new listener gets. A rebrand might mean a subtle tweak, like my podcasting for introverts to podcasting for solopreneurs change. Or it could mean a total overhaul. No matter how big the change, make sure that your title includes search-friendly keywords so that it ranks in the podcast directories. You can check out episode 182 for my full breakdown on how to pick the perfect name for your podcast, plus the mistakes to avoid. Then comes your cover art. Your podcast cover art should reflect your new branding and messaging. This is a great opportunity to refresh your color scheme, font choices, or even update your headshot, in addition to simply replacing the text of your title. Make sure that your cover art is clear, bold, easy to read, and that it stands out, especially when it's viewed as a teeny tiny thumbnail on your phone. You can refer back to episode 204 for more information about how to create a cover that works for your podcast, plus the mistakes to avoid there, too. Next up is your show description. This is one of the most overlooked pieces of a podcast rebrand, but your show description should also be revised to reflect your content and/or audience pivot. And it should definitely include search-optimized keywords. That brings us to your show's trailer. Your trailer is the short 2-minute commercial for your podcast, and it should be updated to reflect the new content and/or the new audience focus. You'll re-record and post the new trailer as an advertisement for your new and improved show. And finally, there's your show's intro and outro if you have them. Some people have a pre-recorded intro and outro that play at the beginning and the end of every episode. If you have these and yours mention the current branding, you'll want to update those to reflect the new direction. So, those are the pieces that need to be updated whenever you do a rebrand. It's also important to note that you can update these individual items without doing a complete rebrand. You can give your show description a refresh or re-record your trailer whenever you feel like it. And in most cases, you don't need to announce to your audience that you're updating something. The exception to that is your cover art. If you're making major changes to the cover art, the audience is definitely going to see that when the next episode pops up in their feed. So you want to announce that change ahead of time and avoid having them exit out because they didn't recognize your show. That's exactly why I gave you a heads up in today's episode a week before my rebrand officially goes live. All right, that brings us to the final item on today's agenda, which is how to position your rebrand to spur growth. Because a podcast rebrand is more than just a name change. It's a marketing opportunity. So let me give you 3 quick tips to turn your rebrand into an event that boosts your visibility. Tip number 1 is to treat it like a launch. Set a specific rebrand launch date and build excitement leading up to it. Involve your family, friends, colleagues, etc. Get other people on board for the relaunch. Tip number 2 is to tell your audience why. Explain and share the story behind your rebrand. Tell them what is changing, what is staying the same, what new value can they expect, and why should they stick around? Tip number 3 is to leverage multiple platforms. You don't want to just post the new podcast in the podcast player and assume that things will happen. Make sure to announce your rebrand on social media and to your email list. Put something on your website. Make a big deal about it in various places. So, if your show isn't growing, isn't bringing in clients, or just doesn't feel aligned anymore, a rebrand might be the fresh start that you need. If you take the leap, make sure to update the 5 key elements and then position your rebrand as an event to fuel real growth. Just don't rush it. Take the time to think strategically so that your rebrand isn't just a set of changes, but is a catalyst for growth. And if you're considering a rebrand for your show, schedule a consultation at thepodcastteacher.com/consult so we can figure out the best path together. As for this show's rebrand, I'll see you right here next Tuesday for the very first episode of Podcasting Over 50. I can't wait to share the story with you. Until next time, happy podcasting!